What do you think when someone says PC military simulation? Everyone's mind sways straight to Arma, nothing more, nothing less. Not only the biggest and most successful military simulation franchise to date, but having inspired a plethora of other games along the way in the same genre, and expanding outwards. But where did it start? Where did it begin? How did Arma evolve? In 2006 came the first in the Arma series, as a spiritual successor to the previous Operation Flashpoint. Armed Assault graced PC gamers to kick off a new generation of military shooters. While still using the same engine as Operation Flashpoint, Armed Assault completely overhauled the game engine, with improved graphics, physics, multiplayer functionality, scripting capabilities, and new units and vehicles. The campaign in Armed Assault is narrated by Private First Class William Porter of the United States Army, and takes place on the fictional Atlantic island of Sarani, an island nation which is divided in two, with the northern section called the Democratic Republic of Sarani, the DRS, and the southern one of an oil-rich southern monarchy called the Kingdom of South Sarani. Later on, of course, there's an expansion pack called Arma Queen's Gambit. This was released in 2007 and contained a follow-up to the original storyline and added more events after the original game. Now, this first game received an average reception on its release. It wasn't amazingly well received, but it wasn't looked over too much either. It was praised for the unique believability of its action, but also criticised for its difficulty, complexity, and bugs, as we'll see soon relates to many of the games in the future. But this criticism would be taken into account by the developers, and for the next game it would be changed in a massive way. After a couple of years without releasing a game, it was obvious Bohemia Interactive was preparing for something special, and had been working hard to make their next game blast the predecessors out of the water. As 2009 rolls around, along comes Arma 2. It was a tactical shooter focused primarily on the infantry combat, but significant vehicular and aerial combat elements were present as well. The player is able to command AI squad members, which adds a real-time strategy element to the game as well, and this is further enhanced by the high command system, which allows the player to command multiple squads using the map. Arma 2 includes the mission editor, which of course makes it possible to create user-made single-player missions or even multiplayer co-op missions. There was also the ability to make whole new campaigns through the in-game wizard. The single-player campaign takes place in the late 2009 era, in the province of South Sagoria, the northern eastern region of the fictional post-Soviet state of Chernobyl, as well as the remote Cherno-Russian island of Utez. Arma 2 was received generally positive, a lot more than the first one, and started to build a name for itself. The game has been praised, of course, once again for its realism, and its graphics at the time were better than they'd seen before, and of course the sheer scale of the game. However, as with the original Armed Assault, the game had received criticism for a number of bugs that it contained upon release, and of course, as we all know, the quality of the AI. But something that really boosted the Arma franchise into the limelight was its multiple expansions for Arma 2. There was Arma 2 British Armed Forces, Private Military Company, Reinforcements, Army of the Czech Republic, and all these added different units, campaigns, missions, or vehicles. But one of the most prominent and most recognisable being Arma 2 Operation Arrowhead. This was a standalone expansion, but later was bundled with the original Arma 2 base game and called Arma 2 Combined Operations. This added the entirely new map of Takistan, missions, and gateways to the biggest mod ever made. And there is no question that DayZ being one of the main points for Arma becoming what it is today. It is the most popular mod ever made and brings zombie apocalypse to the Arma engine and started that whole craze. It was played by millions of people, and furthermore sub-mods were later put into the DayZ mod, bringing in base building or custom vehicles etc, such as the DayZ Epoch or Breaking Point mods. And as the mod got so big, it issued a standalone version of the DayZ game. Based around the same engine as Arma, it was a massive success upon release, selling over 3 million copies within the first year. But I think it's safe to say that didn't last too long. There was a massive hype around the game now though. Arma 2 and DayZ have brought in a more mainstream audience to this military simulation. It had become a massive name in the PC gaming market and Arma was at its peak. So in 2013, Bohemia Interactive released Arma 3, and it also released alongside Arma Tactics, which is a mobile release at the game. Arma 3 though brought innovation to the plate, taking the series into the future. In 2030, where war erupted on the Mediterranean islands of Altis and Stratus, resulting in the deaths of half the civilian population and rendering thousands more homeless, in turn causing a refugee crisis. Under the harsh conditions, NATO peacekeeping forces are deployed to the region to secure the peace and establish joint NATO Altian Armed Forces, or the AAF, bases on the island. Now, it was a little bit of a rocky start at the beginning, but soon optimization and bugs were somewhat smoothed out on the whole, and it's become one of the biggest Armas to date. It also spawned the mainstream Battle Royale mode as we know today. This was before taken from the DayZ mod of Arma 2, but was made into what we know and love to this day in Arma 3. But the developer of this Arma 3 Battle Royale mod wanted to expand off. He went off the Arma engine and he moved to his own standalone game, which was how PUBG was spawned. But back onto Arma. Not only were tons of new vehicles, weapons and equipment added to the game, Arma 3 introduced underwater combat with diving, submarines and stealth weaponry. But there have also been tons of DLCs and expansions for this Arma 3 game, being Zeus, which kind of brought an Eden editor to the multiplayer, carts, a little bit self-explanatory, helicopters, marksmans, things that added in different vehicles and weapons, and later the Apex expansion adding in the new Tanua jungle map, and this brought on the jets and Molten, which added in a new island, and finally Laws of War. Now there's supposedly rumours of an upcoming DLC in 2018 called Tanks, but we don't have too much information on that at the moment. The game was greatly received, except strangely enough being banned in Iran for the inclusion of the CSAT faction, who were seen as an enemy to the NATO in the Arma 3 game. The reasons that this was banned was because they had a supposedly similar language and equipment to the Iranian forces, so apparently they didn't want it in their country. Moving finally into 2017 was the release of an experiment for Bohemia Interactive. Trying to move into a more esports Arma view, they developed Argo, a first-person multiplayer-only shooter on the Arma engine. But at the moment, it is still in development, and yet personally playing it, I feel like it's got a long way to go in terms of optimization and gameplay. But then again, that's just my opinion. But what is your favourite Arma game? What games do you want to see in the future and where do you want them to take the series next? Make sure you leave it down in the comments. If you wanted to, make sure you leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it and stay around the channel if you like these sort of videos. Go and check out my other Evolution videos on Total War Mountain Blade or Men of War that I've done in the past. But until then guys, I will see you in the next one.